Alright Guardians, in this video we're going to be going over some tips and tricks on how to earn Massacre medals in Gambit Prime for the Triumph to get the Reckoner title. So for starters, if you're on this is going to be mostly a Hunter video, but if you're on a Titan or a Warlock, you can do the exact same thing. Exact same tips will work for those classes as well. I would recommend the bottom tree Striker Titan or the top tree Void Walker Warlock. I think those are the best options probably. And so do those for when you talk about the supers. So you do need at least 12 points to get the aura, which you need to do the Triumph. And so you can do that with -2 of the armor pieces and a token. You can just come over here, hit use, and that will last you for 30 minutes. So that way you can rock an exotic, and if you're still missing a piece, maybe you're missing the helmet, you can still get it. Though I would recommend doing it starting off with the full armor set. That way you can get the different Triumph for getting one win with the full set on. And then that also lets you get the annual pass bit. But anyways, as far as setup goes, with a Hunter, it doesn't really matter which Arc Strider class you do. In my opinion, they're all about the same. I just ran with the top one. You might go with the bottom one. You might go with the middle one. Personal preference. Completely personal preference, in my opinion. I would do Arc Bolt Grenade because that's going to hit you more enemies if you're a Warlock. I want to say Scatter Grenades, but those aren't super great. I would go Scatter Grenades probably, or the Void Grenade. What's it called? Hold on. And then for the Vortex Grenade. And then with the Striker Titan, I would obviously go the Pulse Grenades. So, obviously Arc Striders, you want that Raiden Flux. If you're a Titan, I'm not really sure if there are any Striker exotics that would help you out as far as keeping your super longer. But Warlock, if you got Skull Dire Hamkara, even though it's getting nerfed in like 2 weeks, throw that on there. That's going to not make it last longer, but it will make your super come back quicker, so you have another opportunity, say, in another area. Alright, as far as setup goes, as far as like weapons go, probably a hand cannon of some kind, honestly. I know Outbreak Perfected is awesome, but it's not really going to help you kill enemies quickly. I was also using the Mountaintop, or just to get enemies going. And as far as energy weapons, Risk Runner is awesome. I would recommend that one. I would also recommend the Recluse if you have it. And then as far as power weapons go, I would either recommend Hammerhead, though if you're going with a legendary, I would say 21% Delirium with a backup mag mod. That way you can, I think it's 225 if you pick up ammo and get that perk going, that overflow perk. And then as you're killing, you're going to be killing faster because of the killing tally perk. So 21% Delirium is awesome. Also, Thunderlord, if you're not going to run Risk Runner, is another great option because of the explosions that the rounds do, those thunder rounds or whatever they're called in Destiny 2. So those are kind of the setups for the weapons, though I will say I did not get a single Massacre medal using weapons. That's probably the number one thing I feel like I need to point out. Not a single weapon got me a Massacre. I got really close, but it was against a Vex, and I hit a Hobgoblin, and that immunity shield kind of blew it for me. But yeah, I'll show you some tricks in some live video. Well, not live, but edited video. Alright, so first thing, we're going to debunk the thing that says these medals are bugged. They're not. The reason people think they're bugged is because the drifter actually has an audio cue to where you've killed a certain amount of enemies quickly, and they're not getting a Massacre medal. The reason that is not because the medals are bugged. It is because the audio cue hits at about 7 or 8 kills. So I'm going to show you this clip here. I'm going to slow it down so you guys can count. And then I'm going to make it, like I'll put it back to normal speed. And that way you can hear the cue. You can see how many enemies I've killed. And then we'll go from there.
What did they ever do to you? Just kidding.
Alright, so again, as you can see, the audio cue happened about 7 or 8 kills. Just kill 5 or 6 more enemies. Just think of that audio cue as like a halfway point. And then after that, the next big tip I can give you guys is you want to kill stuff at the very beginning of the match as quickly as possible. That way you can get your super quickly and you can just move on to the next area. Like, really just try and focus on getting your super as fast as possible. If you see an orb of light on the ground, pick it up. You want to use your masterwork weapons, get that. Your exotics that have the catalysts, go ahead and pop that on. Like if you have Risk Runner with the catalyst, use that. If you have a favorite legendary hand cannon you want to rock, go ahead and use that. Just try and get as many kills as quickly as possible at the very beginning of the map. Like, I'm about to show you a couple clips of a match where I actually got 2 massacres in a row because 1, the team was kicking our ass pretty hard, but 2, because I was getting a lot of kills quickly and I was picking up a lot of orbs. And so you just try and get as many kills as quickly as possible. After that, you also want to make sure to avoid the big, like, mini boss enemies. Obviously, because those will slow you way down. If you see those guys, kind of, especially if you're an Arc Strider, I've noticed that there's like some aim assist on there, and it will kind of pull you towards them. So if you can, just avoid those spawns at all costs, essentially, or start it by getting one really weak, and then pop your super, finish it off, and go on towards the all the smaller ads. You want a good spawn in has a ton of small ads that you can just plow through, and maybe one like mini boss. Elites shouldn't be too big of a deal, especially with your super. It's just the mini bosses you really want to stay away from. After that, you want to pay attention to where the enemies are spawning. So if you see there's 2 enemies left, let's say, in the area that you're in, go ahead and start running into the middle, about where the bank is. That's usually in the center of the map. And then that way, if you have your super, do this. That way you can be as close as possible to the next area. Because you want, especially if you're solo queuing, you want to be in that new area with all the enemies spawning first. If you have your super, that's when you really want to try and hit it hard. That way you can get as many kills as quickly as possible, or get your Risk Runner, your Thunder Lord, your 21% Delirium, your whatever you're going for killing quickly. That's what you want to grab and just go. So 2 enemies. Once there's 2 or 3 enemies, that's where you want to go, because the next area won't start spawning in until you're down to 2. I think it's 2 enemies, and then it goes. So maybe 3 or 4 enemies left. Start running. After that, like I said, use your super. If you're a warlock, throw your Slova bomb in one direction and start killing enemies in the other direction. That way you're killing enemies on one end with your super and on the other end with your weapons. That will make it a lot easier. If you're rocking your Titan, obviously do the shoulder charge thing as much as possible to keep that super going as long as possible. If they're all grouped up together, do a slam, just like that. And then of course, if you're rocking Arc Strider, just do what you see me doing here in this video. Throw a grenade maybe if there's several enemies bunched up, pop your super, and then go to town. If you really want to try it with your weapons, Risk Runner is great, but if you're on a Hunter, unfortunately, it's not as reliable because you do have to take Arc Energy, and that excludes the Vex completely. It also does the Scorn. There's not a whole lot of enemies that do arc damage. Fallen is really good, so I'd rock Risk Runner with the Fallen. The Hive is kind of maybe because then you only get those Knights. So maybe not do the Hive with the Risk Runner. And then the Cabal, go ahead and do Risk Runner because those Legionnaires are either going to do arc or solar damage. So you got to keep that in mind as well. And then the maps. Emerald Coast, and I think it's Legion's Folly, the one on Nessus. Those are the two best ones to do it at. Just because the enemies all spawn in one area. Like, they're really condensed together. So keep that in mind as well. What others can I give you guys? That's really about it. You have to do it really quick. So, hopefully this guide helped you out. If it did, hit the like button, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, stay positive, be happy, be healthy, live long and prosper. I hope you guys have an awesome week.
Do you feel it? The light is back. We're back. Eyes out, Guardian.